The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to our show, Our View on Public Safety. This morning I have Chief Ronald Sevigny with me and Fire Inspector Jeff Medeiros. We're going to talk about fire prevention, what we do in fire prevention, and what your roles are. So Chief Sevigny, you can start, and then Jeff will take over.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your recent promotion to Chief.
Thank you.
I don't know how many people are familiar, but just this past week, Deputy Chief Aguiar was promoted to Fire Chief of Emergency Special Services. So
thank you.
I'd like to give you a little congratulations before we talk
you.
about us. So it's a pleasure to be here and to promote the Fire Prevention Bureau for the Fall River Fire Department. There's just so much that we cover related to all aspects of fire safety within the city. And so I've been the Deputy Chief, the City Fire Marshal for the past 2 years, and I've been fortunate enough to work with a fantastic team of professionals, inspectors, investigators, as well as get to know Chief Aguiar quite a bit, and work together to promote fire safety throughout the city. So, my friend here, Inspector Medeiros, Jeff Medeiros, is the specialist when it comes to plans review, as you know, and any new buildings, any major renovations and whatnot, is one of the tasks he's been doing for numerous years, and he's definitely our expert opinion when it comes to those things.
So Jeff, talk a little bit about what you actually do as far as building inspections and plans, because I know in your office you have all these plans all over the place, and it's like, one has to really know how to do those things. It's not you walk into your office and say, I want to read these plans, because I wouldn't know how to do it. So explain to us what you actually do.
So what happens is we're actually part of the building process. So if somebody were to come into the city of Fall River today to build a building, that would initiate with the building department. They'll go down, get the application to build, and with that there's some requirements. They need to drop off a set of plans to the building department for them to review, and a set of building plans to the fire department for us to review. Now within those plans, the different things that I look at the fire alarm systems, sprinkler systems, to make sure there's proper coverage with devices and sprinkler heads, and also with any occupancies where we may run into suppression systems, and to make sure that the system makes sense. Meaning, if the sprinklers activate, is it going to activate the alarm system? If we have a suppression system, is it going to shut off the gas valve? Is it going to initiate the alarms, as well as with the suppression system itself? And there are a lot of different devices that make up the fire alarm system. You have pull stations, horn strobes, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. So what I look at is the distancing of devices to make sure that it all complies with NFPA codes.
So now when somebody brings the plans to you to view, what's the cost that's involved in that?
There's a minimum fee of $100, but the actual cost is 5 cents per square foot. So the larger the building, it can get a little bit more expensive if you look at a building like Amazon, or if it's a smaller business, you're looking at roughly $100 as a minimum charge.
So is that one-time charge, or if you'll continue to go back numerous times, you just keep charging that percentage, or?
No, currently it's a one-time charge, one-time fee, and that includes the plans review, any type of interaction that needs to go on between myself and the engineers and the builders, and also for the inspections.
So when you review these plans, and the city fire marshal and yourself, if you feel as though everything is not properly done, then you're not going to open the building. You're going to say, we cannot open this building.
Well, hopefully that's the whole reason for the plan review. Hopefully whatever I see as being deficient or may have a question on, I can at that point, before we get into the point of the building, when actual building is taking place, that we can already remedy any issues that we may have before the actual construction is ongoing.
And you also work in conjunction with planning, engineering, building and codes, Glenn Hathaway.
Yes.
And Dan Aguiar, his office, all as a team to make sure everything is properly in place, right?
Yes, it's really, when you take a look, it's all of us between plumbing, electrical, building, myself, site location, Dan Aguiar. So really, if all of us are there and we're all doing our job, we're going to end up with a much safer building in the city of Fall River. And really, that's our goal.
Chief Sevigny, how many people do you have working under you at fire prevention now?
So we have 7. We have a team, like I said before, an exceptional team. We have Clayton Walker, who's our public relations and Keltron fire alarm system specialist. I've got Dave Wood, who's an all-around inspector specialist as far as scheduling and communicating with the public regarding any appointments that we have. We have numerous calls relating to just fire codes, whether or not it's to inform the public of what our requirements are, or whether or not it's to schedule an inspection. We do numerous amounts of home inspections. Upon the sale of any inspection, we get into the house and we want to make sure that the fire alarm system is brought up to code. So we have specialist Ken Soroyce, inspection inspector, as well as Inspector Mark Furtado, who also does nursing homes and healthcare facilities. And that's a quarterly inspection that gets done partially by our inspectors as well as the district chiefs out in the company.
Dave Wood was also an Austin investigator for quite a few years, Dave.
Yep.
Right. So now, liquor license. You've been going kind of crazy doing liquor license inspection, the building, and all that stuff. So that's been keeping you quite busy. I know that for certain because you're never in your office. So tell us about that. Now, what does that entail, and what's that all about?
So this year was the first year. We are a bit short-staffed. There's an overwhelming amount of demand for inspections. We also do complaints, and just nonstop. We receive about 100 complaints monthly, either from within the companies when they go out to a call and they follow up on that and they pass that along to us, as well as complaints from the public. As I said, we'll receive those over the phone, and we follow up immediately just to ensure the safety of the public. But when it comes to liquor licenses, it was quite an educational experience for me this past year. And we started in mid-November to get out to all the establishments that have been issued a liquor license in the past. When they're up for a renewal, we make sure all the fire codes are up to code as they should be annually. And that includes fire extinguishers, the fire detection system, the fire sprinkler system. If it needs an annual inspection, make sure that's been completed. Of course, means of egress. We don't want anything blocked. Exit lighting. And so one of the things that was interesting is that a lot of establishments are very familiar with this, yet it's extremely important to remind them, because without us going out, you could easily see how these things could be forgotten, because running an establishment, whether or not it's a bar or a restaurant, it can become overwhelming. And now there's some things that get overlooked, could easily be overlooked. And our presence is just, it showed me just how important it is that we get out there and just make sure everything is. And by the end of the year, we make sure just over 100 liquor licenses are completely up to code and safe establishments.
So if they're not in compliance, you can say we're not going to issue you a new license with carry as well. And so is that how that process will work? If they're not up to compliance to what you think they should have?
So we always want to work with our local businesses. We get out there, we identify any things that are behind, whether or not it's the extinguishers needing their annual inspection, whether or not it's lighting, emergency lighting. We work with the building department, as you said. And we know they're under the gun because it's got to be completed by the end of the year. So we work diligently to make sure they get this accomplished. And at this point, we have not had to play hardball and deny anyone their liquor license. But of course, that is an option. If the establishment isn't made safe, we can't have the public, inside any of these a building like this.
Understood, particularly when if you have a few on you and you're not paying attention.
Absolutely.
So moving on to lithium batteries, we know that's been a major concern for fire departments throughout the country, and I do know now that we're working on a SOP for the fire on the lithium batteries and car fires. So we're going to spend some time talking about that. Most people have electric cars today, a lot of people, and I don't think that they know that the danger involved with the electric car, particularly to a firefighter when he approaches the scene if the car is on fire. In the old days when you had a gasoline car fire, just put water on it and knocked it down. Inspector Medeiros was talking about you could put thousands of gallons on a vehicle such as electric fire, and you don't put it out. So let's talk about that. I don't know who wants to take the spin on that one.
All right, well, I'd be more than happy to start. So it's not just electric vehicles. What we have is just a new demand as technology has improved for portable energy, which is mainly the form of these lithium-ion batteries. And with the technology advances, sometimes the safety aspect may delay, may be a little behind. And so as we're dealing with them, we're identifying more and more concerns. And one of those is thermal runaway. And what happens is if a battery becomes compromised in any way, whether or not it's exposure to water, overheating, it can actually has limitations that become exceeded and become dangerous. It may start to smoke, it may become combustible and spread to something else, as well as give off a toxic fume or whatnot. So this isn't just limited to electric vehicles.
No.
It's also, I mean, you look, we have portable tools, we have laptops that rely upon lithium-ion batteries. We've got our mobile devices. Everyone has a lithium-ion battery that we are currently using in one way or another. You know, years ago, as you said, things were extremely simple. We had wood products and very natural, products. Now things are much more synthetic, become more hazardous. And so with that, there is quite a challenge for us. We recently had a small lawnmower, which was a lithium-ion battery powered, which started to fume and overheat with the thermal runaway. It was identified early and quickly, and we were able to mitigate the problem rather prior to it becoming a significant a fire. So at that time, we've noticed not just in Fall River, it's been, in New York City, there's been a huge uptick. One of these items that people are also utilizing are the scooters, the portable scooters, and they're bringing them inside the house. And what happens is, if they overheat, now we have another, once again, a unsupervised, potential for heat and fire.
No, the other thing is I can attest to the fact that I've been to fires where they have vapors on top of counters, overheat, and the kitchen catches fire.
Right.
And it's crazy. Talking about, I did landscaping for years as well, and it was just regular mixed fuel and regular gas. Now everything is powered by batteries.
Right.
And I know one guy who was a landscaper, he must carry 20 batteries on his truck just for all his lawnmowers and weed whackers and all this stuff. That's a potential hazard as well, right?
Absolutely. Well, we've also had a significant fire about a year ago at Burns Power Tools.
Power Tools, yes.
And there was the initial, concern with the abundance of lithium-ion batteries that they have with all of their power tools. And I mean, that was a great establishment that a lot of people relied upon because they had such a great selection and variety of tools. But many of these newer tools are battery powered. And so even afterwards, it was a huge concern and a risk where some of these batteries have been known to ignite 30 days afterwards. And so they need to be packed, they need to be drummed and supervised and isolated. They can't be near any combustibles, they can't be, and even to extinguish a fire involving a lithium-ion battery, it takes a tremendous amount of water. So we're working on other technologies. There's blankets that have been developed when it comes to electric vehicles. We're working on obtaining a few of those for the Fall River Fire Department, as well as maybe even having the salvage yard, so have a disposable blanket to cover up and isolate it from other combustible materials.
Are we also getting a storage barrel for those lithium batteries? If we go to a call, you can put them in the barrel and contain them safely. Is that
Absolutely.
We'll work on that as well, right?
So we have Lieutenant LePage, who's our right-to-know officer, and he's also our hazmat tech and specialist. And he's been developing our current policy based on other departments and what we've learned to implement it to become our policy. And in the meantime, we have put a storage bucket with packing, so that way when we do we can remove the hazard immediately. So it isolates it from any other combustibles. Like I said, there is that potential of overheating, and so it needs to be isolated for quite some time. So we're working on the policy of isolating it and having a company come and dispose of it properly. But we have 2 barrels at this time, and of course we're going to work on getting more, because we just see that this is going to be a frequent instance that we will have to deal with.
Just touch on, I know you mentioned, Inspector Medeiros, we touched on car fires that have batteries and
Right.
the blanket. I don't know if, I have heard you put the blanket over it, smothers the fire, half an hour you take the blanket off and the car just blows up again.
Reignites.
So how can we handle that? I mean, particularly going to the, where they're going to store the vehicle.
I know as far as with this SOP that's being written, some departments have had success using the blanket, and there's a specialized head for the hose that you stick underneath the blanket.
Like
So
an
a
applicator,
combination of the decrease in oxygen going to the fire with the cooling effect of the water has been a good combination that's been experienced through some fire departments. So I think it's a technology itself that is far ahead of the safety factors, if you will. So right now, we're using a lot of new things to see what's most effective on putting out these fires, because you're right, when you talk about extremely large quantities of water, I know we were talking earlier just before the show started, that there have been cases of putting on 45,000 gallons of water on one car fire in order to put it out. That's just a tremendous amount of water in order to put out one car fire.
So people that may be somewhat familiar with firefighting activity, foam or dry chemical would not work on that? Or Chief Sevigny, what's the answer to that, would you know?
So we're still looking into the aspects, the best way to extinguish a fire in the safest way without, we don't want a significant amount of water runoff. We don't want to endanger the safety of the public. We don't want fumes coming off. So there's ways where we're looking at smothering, cooling are typically a way of extinguishment. And right now that's one of the ways we've been utilizing the excessive amounts of water, cool these batteries down. And then on top of that, the smothering keeps the oxygen away from, for a fire you need oxygen. So if we can smother it and keep it without any oxygen, then that's another aspect of, as far as extinguishers and stuff, we're also, we're concerned because there is an electrical aspect to it. Sometimes people may utilize an extinguisher that may not be rated for electrical fire.
Right.
So typically if there's electric hazard, we de-energize it, and then we extinguish it as a normal combustible.
So let's say the firefighters respond to a typical lithium battery car fire, and they put the fire out, the blanket's on the car. Does the blanket stay on the vehicle until it gets to the tow yard, or how does that work? And then you remove it at the tow yard. Will a piece of apparatus follow them? I would know that would be your car, the city fire marshal. How would you handle that situation? I mean, I think these are questions that people don't know the answers to, and I think if we explain it to them, they may understand it more.
Right, and that's one of the things we're doing right now. We're developing a comprehensive plan that'll address all these aspects of whether or not it's a small cell phone battery, lithium-ion battery there, whether or not it's a laptop, whether or not it's a power tool, or a landscape trailer with multiple power tools and stuff. Sometimes that's just the heat source, and then it spreads from the battery to other combustibles. And so we have what started out as a small fire from a small battery to other combustibles, and spreads quickly. So you were asking about electric vehicles. We will follow. Currently what we're doing is we don't have the blanket at this time. We want to put the blanket on and obtain it, but like all new technologies, it's not cheap. So, but we are working on funding and finding ways to get this technology so we can, because like I said, we definitely understand that this is a growing area of concern for the fire department and the public. So, some of the things we can do though is unplug power tools. We should make sure anything that's being charged is monitored. We don't want to leave it in a basement being plugged in and hope, we know it'll be fully charged and stuff. Once it's fully charged, it should be unplugged and disconnected from the charger. Just like, any type of charge you have, whether or not it's your cell phone, a laptop, any power equipment, whether or not it's an electric vehicle. Once it reaches its full potential, it's full. To continue to charge something is only asking, so you're going to overheat, and if the limitation factors on these devices gets breached in any way, now it's going to overheat. Then you'll have thermal runaway, and it just continues to heat even more.
So, a few more minutes. There's been incidents on airplanes where airplanes' baggage area caught fire because of laptops or cell phones in a suitcase or whatever it may have been, or what would have caused that type of fire? How would that just sitting there burst into flames? Any explanation for that? I mean, that's one kind of.
A lot of the cases that I know of that involved something like that, it was in the process of being charged and/or did not have enough airspace to vent. These batteries require venting, which I know a few years ago we saw some cases, not in this city, but nationwide, where people were plugging in their phones at night, putting the telephone underneath their pillow and sleeping on it. Well, now you've got the compression factor on a device that's going to generate heat while charging, and it wasn't allowed to vent, and after a while it continues to heat up, and just like the chief was talking about, you end up with the thermal runaway. Once that reaction starts, it's difficult to stop. And so my thought would be, in those cases there wasn't any proper venting, or was so compressed potentially within the suitcase that it created enough heat, not allowed to vent, and then it went into the case of the thermal runaway.
So we have a lot of topics to talk about, so we're going to continue this on the next show. So I just want to thank my guests, Chief Sevigny for being here, and Inspector Medeiros for being here today. And we're going to pick this up at a later show, and because we have plenty of things to talk about. Thank you for watching the show today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure.